The one that cares less about the transaction is the one who always wins. And I don't care if it's a business relationship,
the one
a
who
sales
cares
relationship.
less about the transaction always wins. I love that's it. Welcome to the Next Level Income Show, where it's our goal to take your income, your investments, and your life to the next level. I'm your host, Chris Larson. If you haven't yet, get a copy of our book for free at our website, nextlevelincome.com. That's www.nextlevelincome.com. Just click on the book link, and I'll even send you a copy if you put your address in. On today's podcast, we have Jermaine Cheathem. Jermaine is coming to us from almost the other side of the world. He's a former 9-to-5 sales pro who's brokered over $50 million in finance deals, and he's traveled to over 40 countries. I think the number is 49 at this point, before discovering that success isn't freedom. Today, he helps other business-to-business sales professionals earn $20,000 or more a month, brokering deals already happening in the Rolodex through a 95% margin micro business they can run from a laptop a few hours a day. And today, I'm excited to have this conversation with Jermaine because he's going to talk about how you can grow your own business as well in a space that is helping our economy grow too. Jermaine, welcome to the show you're in Georgia, but not the state of Georgia. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing over there on almost the other side of the world.
Yeah, Chris, man, thanks for having me. So I literally just landed a couple of hours ago. I was in Dubai for a few months, and
Amazing.
it's getting a little bit too warm in Dubai this time of year. So I figured I was trying to make my way over to Europe. So I wanted to come to Georgia. I've never been here before. So here I am.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I got to tell you, as a man with two teenage boys that are knee deep in middle and high school and sports, our travel revolves around them right now. We love to travel. We get as many places as possible. But I got to admit, I'm a little envious that you travel full time. Is that right?
Yeah, typically I just get up
Amazing.
and leave every 2 to 3 months to a new
Yeah.
country. I was in Japan at the beginning of the year, then I made my way to Vietnam, then I was in India, then I was in Dubai, and now here I am in Georgia. So it's just
Yeah.
the wonders of remote businesses is great.
Yeah. Well, when we're gonna talk about how you've intentionally built your businesses to enable this part of your life. I'm just curious, what's your favorite country, favorite city, favorite place you've been to here over the past year or two?
That's tough, man. I've been to, I don't know, 48, 49 countries. They're all unique
Amazing.
in their own special way.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to pick one because there's different nuances of each country that I
Yeah.
like in
Yeah.
particular, and then there's obviously parts of it that maybe I don't like as much. So to pick one is not fair to all the other ones. So I can't answer that, man.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, it's like when somebody asks me like, "Oh, what's your favorite type of food?" I'm like, "Well, it just depends on the day, depends on the season, depends what I've had that week and that sort of thing." Well, yeah, let's get into how you've gone from a successful sales career to building this business that you have now, Jermaine. That you have this freedom because I think whether you're able to travel the world and do that, or like me, able to spend more time with your kids and not miss a lacrosse game, for instance. I think our listeners really want to know the secrets to getting that time freedom. And that's what, financial freedom is great, but financial freedom buys you time freedom. How did you do it?
Well, sales is the ultimate vehicle for freedom.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
knew that going into it, even, as a kid in high school. I sold candy, I sold door to door, I sold landscaping services, I sold shoes, I sold it all because ultimately I wanted freedom. And I know the
Yeah.
first rung of freedom is financial freedom. And so
Yeah.
the whole
Do you mind if
point
do you
of
mind if
getting
I pause you right there for a second?
sure.
I love that you said that because I feel the same way. And I kind of fell into sales. I was selling, I was like, I need my money. My parents didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, well, how do I get money to, buy some stuff so I can be like the other kids? I sold wrapping paper door to door. I sold newspapers, I had a newspaper route and Cutco knives in college. But I didn't really have that sales light bulb go off until I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and Robert Kiyosaki said how important it is to be able to sell. You seem to catch it at a young age. When did that light bulb go off for you?
I wanted to buy basketball cards and I had no money. So my mom was like, well, you better get a job. And so I was like, well, what do I do? So I just knocked on my neighbors' doors and said, hey, can I cut your yard, your lawn? That's
Yeah,
sales. That's not
yeah,
landscaping. That is sales. Every
that's right.
conversation
Yeah,
is and you're trying to influence whatever you want to help them with in exchange for monetary compensation. And so I learned, oh, if my neighbor's going to give me $5 to cut her lawn, then the whole world is my oyster for opportunities. Because if you look at a capitalistic market in the United States, it's like sales is the lifeblood of it. And so
That's right,
that
man.
planted the seed that like literally I can create whatever I want through conversations with people, the right people, especially if I'm selling a high leverage product or service. And
Yeah.
so I always believe that if you're in sales, you're not an entrepreneur, you're shooting yourself in the foot because you're already doing 80% of the heavy lifting of any business. Because without
Yeah.
sales, nothing fucking happens.
Yeah.
It's the only way businesses make money.
That's
So
right.
if you're not an entrepreneur and you're in sales, it's like, what are you doing? Like you're doing all the hard work, you're only getting a slim cut of the margin, and your pains up the wazoo. What are you doing? So it's like sales is like that first boot camp of freedom, and the
Yeah.
transition from there is always entrepreneurship next.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're young and you're listening, I just got my son's 15, my older son, and we've got a car wash here in Asheville, and he's selling membership. So he's an attendant, he makes sure everything's working right, make sure if anybody has any questions, but he's selling memberships and we pay him on commission. So, I think it's amazing because it makes you a better partner, makes you a better parent, makes you better at any job you do. Because if you can sell, ultimately, what you're doing is learning how to communicate effectively, listening, problem solving, all those things. So I know I cut you off, but I think that's such an important lesson. And we've had a couple sales gurus on this year, like my friend Joe. So if you don't know how to sell or you think there's some stigma around it, I highly encourage you to listen closely to Jermaine and how he transitioned from a professional sales career to really what he's doing now.
And the thing about sales is all the gurus and all the books overcomplicate sales. Sales is nothing more than a
Yes.
conversation. That's all it is. It's literally
Yes.
you make a statement, I listen to your statement, I
Yeah.
make a statement back. There's
Yeah.
no script. There's no
No.
let me try to angle it this way or that way.
No.
No, I'm trying to understand Chris's vantage point. Where is he coming from? Is there anything I can offer to solve any of his problems? If
Yeah.
so, great. If not, great too. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like the one that cares less about the transaction is the one who always wins. And I don't care if it's a business
The
relationship,
one
a
who
sales
cares
relationship,
less about the transaction always wins. I love
and,
that's
and this
great.
is and this is in any relationship.
Yeah.
Like the one that's over invested is the one without the leverage. And so sales is no more than like, hey, I have a thing, you might want it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. So there's your sales course right there. There's your sales course, right? Yeah. Listen. And that's what, with my reps, I train them, we go in, I work with surgeons, Jermaine. So we go in to meet with a surgeon and the rep's like, well, what product are we talking about today? I'm like, there's no product. They're like, what do you mean there's no product? I'm like, you're just there to listen to the surgeon, what his main concerns are, what his goals are. And then once you understand that, then you can say, hey, maybe there's a solution that we can provide. And takes the customer off guard too, because you're saying, hey, just teach me about what are your goals, and versus saying, hey, sell me this widget. People don't want a widget. I found, just like we were talking about, people, yeah, they say they want financial freedom, but they actually want what it's going to give them. And if you figure out what their why is, and if what you have, your service or product, can give them that path there, then that's really how you provide value.
Yeah. And a lot of it just comes down to trying to get them to talk about things outside of the business realm or the sales
Yeah.
cycle.
Yeah.
Like just get them
Yeah.
talking because guess what? They're going to end up telling you exactly what they want from you without you even talking about your product or service because they're going
Yeah.
to have an inkling about what you do offer.
Yeah.
They're not going to come out of left field with it. So let them
Yeah.
bring it up because then they're the one chasing.
Yeah. That's a great, yeah. You flip the script, as they say, right? You say, hey, have them ask you. And that's exactly what I found was when you take that approach, then they typically say, like, basically, hey, why are you here? How can you actually help me? Now they're inviting you in versus turning you down and doing that. So that's fantastic. So let's talk about, what was your sales career in, Jermaine? So you started out obviously selling landscaping and doing that. And I love these stories, right? Of us that start out so young and then build up into a professional sales career. What did you sell professionally?
So I was selling financial services,
Yeah.
specifically loans for commercial equipment
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
businesses to acquire whatever they might need, bulldozers or X-ray units or what have you. And so the problem with the methodology at the industry in general is it was more of a boiler room mentality. We're
Interesting.
making
Yeah.
300 cold calls to businesses to see if they need financing to buy commercial equipment, right?
Yeah.
And it's not a leveraged model because the product is leveraged. It's money and it's lucrative because you're making a big commission on money you're loaning out. But the method of getting the people that need the loans is very inefficient because you're cold calling, trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Right.
And
Right.
the twist came when I decided, just by happenstance, when I was talking to a client on one of the deals I was working on, he's like, "Yeah, Jermaine, I got more deals."
Hmm.
And my light bulb went off, and I realized, oh, this is the secret is strategic partnerships. Instead of me chasing the people that needed the funding, I just started partnering with the equipment sellers, and they
Wow.
started
Yeah.
bringing
That
me
makes sense.
deal after deal
Yeah.
after deal, and the niches are really in the riches. It's a real thing. Like, not only do you have to niche down as far as like what you're offering to who,
Yeah.
like I'm not
Yeah.
doing all different types of financial services. It's only commercial equipment finance, right? But then also whom. There's commercial equipment everywhere. There's
Yeah.
printing equipment, there's video production equipment, there's landscaping equipment, there's whatever, there's everything. And just look around, there's equipment and software everywhere. So
Yeah.
I picked
Yeah. So just to
a lane.
just to pause real quick. So small businesses, larger businesses, like you mentioned, X-ray equipment. So it could be a doctor's office or diagnostic center. Commercial equipment. So it could be a builder, right? That's leasing a piece of equipment. Give us a couple other examples of equipment and types of businesses,
Oh,
if you don't mind.
it could be printing equipment, bulldozers, cranes, lifts, hoists, racks for like
Yeah.
a tire shop. It could be office furniture
Racks
for
for a
a lawyer.
tire shop. Wow.
It
Yeah.
could be office furniture and computers and network
Yeah.
servers for a lawyer. It
Yeah.
could be dental equipment at a dentist's office. I mean, if you just look around the world, a restaurant, like anywhere you walk into, there's commercial equipment, there's lighting, there's signage. I
Yeah.
did a deal for $70,000 the other day. It was for a huge sign,
How
just for
about
the
that?
outside of their building. So like,
Yeah.
there's equipment, and businesses need
Yeah.
funding to get this, and it's tax deductible. So,
Yeah.
but going back to the leverage point is you can't
Yeah.
finance all types of equipment.
Yeah.
You have to pick a lane because you want that snowball effect of your name being associated with this particular niche of equipment as the finance guy. And
Yeah.
so I picked medical deals only.
Love it.
So the key is like I was only doing medical deals, and I was only getting the deals from the medical device salespeople. So I
Yeah.
had this beautiful flywheel going, but
Yeah.
I was still as an employee. I was still
Mm,
stuck in this nine to
okay.
five, going to these dumb meetings, still only getting a portion of the commissions. And so
Yeah.
that's when I realized, okay, it's time for me to exit and start my own equipment financing firm as just a solopreneur.
Yeah.
And that was really where the freedom started to fly. That was in 2016.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. And so you've been at it for almost a decade now. That's phenomenal. Yeah. And I did more on the implant side, so we weren't really financing much stuff. But yeah, we had partners in our. I work for Medtronic, which you're probably familiar with, and yeah, CT machines. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's a phenomenal business model. So you start your own business. Did you still stick to the same types of financing products that you were selling into that medical world?
Mostly still medical.
Yeah.
My business has always been 80% medical, but I
Yeah.
would occasionally get random deals because I had such a big network
Yeah.
of people that I've been
Yeah.
talking to over the years. And so they would still send me different types of deals. So medical was always kind of like that secret sauce.
Yeah.
In 2016, I took my mom to Europe for her 60th birthday. And
Oh,
I'm over in Europe and I'm trying to enjoy Europe. I'm trying not to like be working. I want to enjoy, Italy. And
yeah.
I realized I have to tighten up the business to really like make this business hum without me always being on call, always
Yeah.
answering emails or phone calls. And so I extended the trip by another 3-4 weeks and just traveled throughout Europe and really tightened up the business model and the SOP so it could really run almost automatically without me doing much besides like an hour or so a day of just maintenance, right? And that was kind of the epiphany moment where I realized there's nothing special about me. I can literally help other people start their own equipment finance business in this exact model. And that's when I started to really start thinking about this coaching side of the business.
Yeah.
Plus, one of my former medical device guys came. He's like, Jermaine,
Yeah.
I'm pivoting and I want to start doing equipment financing like you.
Yeah.
So I literally showed him exactly how to set up the business, how to get the partnerships, how to get the underwriters on, because he had in his Rolodex a couple of friends that sold other medical equipment.
Oh
So he was
yeah.
like,
Absolutely.
I already have the network, I already
Yeah.
have the deal flow. I just need to know how to broker these deals.
Yeah.
So he got all set up, and he was literally doing 100 grand overnight,
Wow.
because he already had the network through his Rolodex, and his
Yeah.
skill set was just, he had a bunch of people he knew. So I was like,
Yeah.
something, this is a perfect business model that people that already have the skill set in sales, or have a network of people that could send them business. And now
Yeah.
I'm just like showing them how to actually just broker these deals, which is a matter of a couple of emails, and you're making 10-20% commissions on the financed amount. So it was kind of like a light bulb moment.
Oh, you're gonna have some people that listen because we got a huge contingent in the medical space. So, yeah. So medical, I mean, makes sense to me. I understand that world. So you're a matchmaker, right? You're matching like any good salesperson. But what if you're not in the medical space? What other? So if people are listening, they're like, well, what else could I do if I'm not in that? What are some big areas out there? You mentioned commercial equipment, like machinery and those sorts of things. I know there's also some real tax benefits. I know, like our tax strategy group that we work with, they help people for tax purposes set up equipment financing. What other types of stuff are out there?
So I have one of my students. He loves construction. That's like one
Yeah.
of his kind of niches, and so
Yeah.
he does a bunch of boom trucks, the
Uh-huh.
trucks
Yeah.
that hold the little guys in the basket. They're like,
Yeah.
it's 60, $70,000. So that's like his niche, because he has a couple of friends that he known his previous job experience that
Yeah.
could send him deals. There's so many other examples of this. I have another guy that loves surveying equipment,
Yeah.
like land surveyors.
Yeah.
So that's his niche, like land surveyors, restaurant equipment. I have another guy that he's actually an accountant, and his niche is, apparently he has like a boatload of clients that are food trucks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
food trucks are, 40, 50 grand each. And so
Yeah.
he finances the food trucks. So like,
Amazing. Yeah.
if you just drive around, I always implore people, like, if you're going on a sales call or whatever, drive around and just look at all the equipment that's in the economy. All that stuff, 79% of it's financed.
Yeah.
So
It's
there's
been
all
somebody
different types
sold
of
it
niches.
and somebody's probably financing it. You're hitting both of them. Yeah.
For sure. So it's like, CT scanners are great. I did
Yeah.
software for a time, which was great. Ultrasound machines are great.
Yeah.
There's all different types of niches. I personally love medical for a couple of simple facts.
Yeah.
Doctors have great credit. They pay their bills because they're one track minded. They medicine, and that's kind of it,
Yeah.
which is beneficial because they know the ROI. They just say, get it done. They're
Yeah.
straightforward. They're direct. It makes life easier. And the
Yeah.
sales reps are kind of the same wavelength, the way I am. Like, I'm direct. I just want to get it done. And
Yeah.
we kind of see eye to eye. So it just depends on your personality. Like, I have another guy that he does automotive shops. I'm not an automotive. I can't change my tire. I don't change my oil. It's not my cup of tea.
You don't have to.
But
You're
that was,
flying around the world, man. You got. I think it sounds to me like
but
you'd have a jet before you had a car again.
but like, from a personality standpoint, it's just not my style. So I didn't even mesh having conversations with the tire shop
Yeah.
guys. So you kind of have to know thyself.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I love it. So now you're teaching people. So if somebody's listening, they're like, because I get this question all the time, Jermaine. People like us. They're in their 30s, 40s, and they're saying, "Man, I just had a conversation with one of my friends just last night. He's crushing it, but it's like I'm working 80 hours a week, and I don't really know how to get out of this space. This sounds like something that you can pick up and grow on the side that actually could be synergistic for a lot of people that are doing this with their business contacts, and then ultimately, create that freedom, which I'm a big fan of. Like, my wife's an architect. The first year she started working, Jermaine, we had her second son, and I did the numbers, and I said, "Just look at this." And my wife said, "What's that?" It says $11,000, and she's like, "I was like, that's how much we made last year, with you working full, and paying taxes and daycare. And she's like, 11,000. I go, yeah, but there's a negative in front of it. It cost us $11,000 for you to work, versus just staying home with the kids. So she started on the side, her own business. I think it's a great way for people to kind of, transition into this space. Is that what you find? I mean, do people go cold turkey like you did and just jump into this space, or they kind of build up their business on the side?
They all do it on the
Yeah.
because I personally don't believe in working more than 4 hours a day on anything, because if you're working for more than 4 hours a day, you're either selling the wrong product to the wrong people, and you're focusing on the wrong activities. Yeah. And so like, I'm all about leverage. And so like, one of my students is kind of funny. He was a hospital administrator, and he was like a patient experience coordinator, but he had a Rolodex of doctors that he knew.
Oh yeah. Oh.
And so he started doing this to the doctors on the side. He was doing this for 2 to 3 hours a day after work. And in a matter of 4 or 5 months, he was doing $10,000 in commissions every month, just deal after deal after deal. And he stayed at the hospital for a good 2 years. And even though he was making, $20,000, $25,000 a month doing this on the side, actually it was 5 times as much as what he was making at the hospital. But sometimes it's hard to change a tiger stripe when you're used to having a 9-to-5 job. But at least he had this ability, this plan B, in case he gets laid off, in case something happens. Like, that's like one of the worst things, is like not having any options if shit hits the fan. And so it's kind of his security blanket. Absolutely. And he just actually eventually left about 8 months ago, and now he's just doing this full time. And so so this is definitely a side business that can grow into a full-time business, because that's ultimately the goal, is like, get your feet wet, start making your first $10,000 a month, and then you can now you have choices. Now you have options, and like the whole point of freedom is having options.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've kind of talked through the stages. You've gone through. You talk about how you teach others to go through it. I would say, hey, I just talked to my younger son's class about like how to invest. But the big thing we talked about was like, kind of what's the first step? What's the next step? And I said, you guys got to make some money before you can invest. So we talked about like what jobs they can do. So a lot, most of us go out, they become a professional, they have a job, then they start their own business. And you talked about it, Jermaine, and I've gone through this process. Once you have your business, it's like, well, how do you fire yourself? And you teach your clients how to build that side business, how to grow that business, and ultimately, turn it into a real business, not just like a side gig. How can listeners find out more about your coaching program and what you do?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, creatorslearn.com, because entrepreneurs are creators. We create deals out of thin air. And that's where you can find everything. I have an awesome case study there they can check out for free. It's a video case study, and hop on a call with me and kind of see if it's a good fit. The beautiful thing about, like we were saying, Chris, earlier, is like, when you find the right product and it's leverageable, because, for example, like one of my first jobs is I was selling shoes. I was getting a salary, and I was a very small commission, and you sell socks or whatever. And then I started selling house painting services. Those commissions were 10 times bigger, right? And so it's like, where is the product that has the most leverage? And so financial services as a solopreneur is like a highly leverageable business model. So if that's something that's interesting to your listeners, check out the case study for sure.
Yeah, creatorslearn.com. It'll be down here in the show notes. If you're listening on YouTube, you can click right here down below. And Jermaine, you just came from you just came from Dubai. You are in Georgia now. Where are you heading to next?
I don't know. So my whole plan was, when I got to Tokyo, I was like, okay, this mid-January, I was like, okay, I just want to make it to Europe for the summer. So I'm making my way slowly over to Europe. I have I go to my brother's birthday party in New York in September. So I don't know. I'm thinking Spain or Greece. I don't know. I'll be here for at least a month. So I'm just playing it by ear, man.
Amazing. Well, if you're in Europe this summer, be on the lookout for Jermaine. Jermaine, thank you so much for joining us today, and check him out at creatorslearn.com. Hey, Chris here again. I hope you found this episode valuable. Now, I have one more thing to gift you. We have a page for my coaching clients where you can get a free copy of my book, as well as much more from previous guests on the show. Just check out nextlevelincome.com/coaching to get a free copy of my book, audiobook, and much more. I'll send you a copy of my book and cover all the shipping costs as a thank you for listening to the podcast. Also, please like, share, and take just 90 seconds to give us a rating on Apple Podcasts.